Alright, so let's look at how we can find the x-intercepts of a parabola. Let's say for example, we had y is equal to x squared plus 15x plus 54. We can easily identify this as a parabola because of our x squared here. Alright, so we know that our x-intercept is when our y is equal to 0, right? This is something important to understand. Our x-intercept happens when our y is equal to 0. In this case, let's set it to 0 here. So what we're going to be doing here, we're going to put the line here is our x squared. So plus 15x plus 54 is equal to 0. All right, so now we've set our y to 0. Let's get to solving it. So how can we find the x-intercepts? We have to use something known as factoring. Okay, so I'll show you how to factor here. So let me put a factoring. So here's some basic rules you need to know for factoring. You kind of have to understand that this over here, whatever here, is your a value, this is your b value, and this is your c value. So to factor, you need to find a number that multiplies, or set of two numbers that multiply to a value of a times c, and a number that adds to 15. Or in this case, it was b. It's right in the general formula. All right. So we can kind of create it for this. So we have to find two numbers that multiply to one. This is one value times 54. So two numbers that multiply to 54 and add to a value of whatever b value is, which is 15. Now you can go through the numbers, but I've already figured out the numbers here. The value that multiplies to two numbers that multiply to 54 and add to 15 are basically 9 and 6. Because 9 times 6 is 54, and 9 plus 6 is equal to 15. So we found our terms that we need to be using. So now let's get to factoring. Alright, so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be splitting up my 15x into 9x and 6x. Doesn't matter the order, but that's what I'm going to be basically doing. And that's to turn this trinomial into a polynomial with 4 terms, okay? So I can actually group it. I'll show you what I mean. So it's going to be x squared plus 9x plus 6x, right? Plus 54. Now the next step of this is we'd actually group it like this. So I'm going to group it like this. I'm going to create into two, right? Binomials, two binomials like so. And then I'm going to take out a common factor from each. So x would be a common, then x plus 9 would be left inside. Here I'm going to take out a value of 6, and then it'd be x plus 9 inside, as 6 times 9 is 54. All right, is equal to 0. So now my factors, you think, oh, they would be whatever inside these brackets, right? But no. One of them is inside the brackets, and one of them is outside. So if you factor correctly, you'd see that you have a repeating thing like that, right? So it would be these would be your factors right here. Now your final step to do would be actually be able to set them each to 0 and figure out what they equal to. So if I had x plus 9 is equal to 0, you would get x is equal to negative 9. And if I had x plus 6, you would get is equal to 0, you would get x is equal to negative 6. And therefore, these are your x-intercepts. You can be like, okay, you can put a therefore sign. Therefore, the x-intercepts are negative 9 and negative 6. Sorry. And that's all.